Hey gang, it's James coming on to do a live stream. I wasn't planning on doing one this week, but obviously I changed my mind. What I'm talking about tonight is you might read it, and because the beautiful nuances of the English language, sometimes a capital I can look like a capital L, or sorry, a capital I can look like a lowercase l. It's not al in prophecy, it's AI in prophecy. Most of you probably picked up on that, but just for the few that didn't, maybe you're having a long day and your brain's fried. It's AI and prophecy. I wanted to talk about this because a group of journalists that I follow, the Independent Media Alliance, this has got people like Whitney Webb. You may know her from her Epstein book, One Nation Under Blackmail. James Corbett, you might know him from his Who is Bill Gates documentary. And among others, Ryan Christian from The Last American Vagabond, Derek Bros, Conscious Resistance. I post their work all the time. But they all got together and they kind of established this kind of loose-knit, I don't know if you could call it an organization, but it's a group where they all kind of collaborate under the same umbrella, but yet they maintain their independence. So anyway, so they're having a panel discussion right now, live. And I'll watch it on the back end tomorrow. But they're talking about AI. And so I thought, you know what? I haven't really done a deep dive into AI. As far, I mean, I have my own research, but as far as like discussing it publicly. And so the last few times I've streamed, with a few exceptions, I've been trying to kind of focus on biblical prophecy. A few weeks ago, I did a video called Prepare for the Mark of the Beast, where I was giving my opinions on what the Mark of the Beast is and is not. I did one on the number of the beast, and I've got one coming on who is the beast, and this is kind of a lead up to that. So one of the ways that we can identify something, like and detail it, label it, however you want to look at it, is by identifying things that it's not. Okay, and you know, like the more you rule things out, like if I walk into a room and I see a woman, I can look at the woman and I can say, that's not my wife. The fact that that's not my wife helps me identify who the woman is. You know, it's subtle, but by ruling out possibilities, you are able to kind of hone in on things that could be the facts. Okay? It's like I like to say with Revelation, it took me years to see this very basic point. But it's called the revelation, your English will say, of Jesus Christ. More accurately, it's something like Yahshua or Yeshua, the Messiah. But either way, it's the revelation of Him. And the way too many of us read it is the revelation of the Antichrist. That's why most prophecy buffs read that book, is because we want to know who the Antichrist is. Okay? And I'm guilty of that too. So I'm not throwing stones in a glass house, or even a plexiglass house, or even... Anyway. So I full transparency, I've been in that trap a while. Hopefully I'm out of it now, although confirmation bias and all that kind of stuff, who knows. Anyway, so I want to talk about a little bit about what AI, just my understanding of it, and that'll kind of segue into what I think how it relates to biblical prophecy. So, artificial intelligence. There's two basic ways to look at it as I've become aware. There's what we call the conventional artificial intelligence. These are language learning models like ChatGPT, Grok, things like that people interact with. And these are basically programmed to scour the internet for data, as much data as possible. And of course, that data is generated by humans. And of course, a growing number of that data is being generated by bots and automatic processes, which is kind of poisoning the well. But in theory, that data is generated by humans. So human input goes into these language learning models. And humans are varying degrees of stupid. Okay? So just because something is online, if you haven't figured this out by now, it doesn't mean it's true. Language learning model doesn't inherently know this. It looks at things statistically. If it sees news organizations of a quote-unquote merit, like Reuters and AP, things like that, saying things, it's designed to give more weight to that as being more likely true than if I were to go on and say it, because I'm not a merited or I don't have that kind of clout or that kind of repute. So it's programmed to do this. And so when you ask it questions, and there's video after video after video of people going and asking it questions, like you could just go and look it up, like find a search engine, do conventional research, but more and more people are just asking ChatGPT about stuff, and it'll even write your homework papers for you. And so, they're asking these questions, and the language learning model basically tries to understand what they want it to say, because it's a language learning model. It's not an actual sentient being. So I'll get to that in a minute. Some people think it is. But basically, it's programmed to understand what you're saying and what you mean by the words that you're using, and to go scour the internet, its resources that it has in its availability, and give you an answer it thinks that you want. Okay, that's what it does. And people have shown countless times how you can manipulate that. You can ask it something, and if it gives you an answer you don't like, you can just ask again in a different way, maybe change your tone of voice, and it will give you the answer that you want. Okay, so, and this is the basic AI that the average consumer interacts with. This is not AI. Okay? AI, real AI, like the governments have, state actors use, they actually use it to make decisions. Now, I've talked about this before. Palantir is a company owned by Peter Thiel, Alex Karp. These are guys who are steering the Trump administration. I've talked about that ad nauseum. They are both members of the steering committee for the Bilderberg Group. And yet the Trump administration is supposed to be taking us away from globalism and the New World Order and all this. No. New boss is same as the old boss. Anyway, I don't want to diverge into politics, although it is related. So the idea is that Palantir and other companies are creating AI for government use. The Israeli government has an AI program called Hapsora, which the mainstream news translates as the gospel. And they've got one called Lavender. There's different variations of the same basic idea. But what they're using is they're using AI programming to actually identify targets in Gaza. Like, where should the IDF send its next bomb? Which apartment complex with women and children and unarmed men should it bomb next? It's using AI to harvest data, analyze that data, and then give suggestions on where to hit. And the soldiers are on record, there are interviews of this, saying, we just did what it told us to do. And this is convenient for the powers that should not be, because they get to say, well, the computer just screwed up. We're sorry, like, it's not on us, AI. No. This is the thing. Like you programmed AI to do very specific things, and it's doing what you told it to do. And so that's the one flavor. That's the flavor that's being used to make decisions. Doge is using forms of this AI in its audit of the government. And so this is basically collecting information, statistically analyzing it, and then providing outcomes that people in theory use in their decision making, although far too many people are just letting the AI make the actual decisions. Okay? Then you have what's also called explainable AI. So Elon Musk, I just mentioned him, XAI. That's his AI company that has Grok, right? Before XAI came on the scene, there was a government program under the Department of Defense called XAI. And if you look at the chronology, it shuts down, and almost immediately the private version, the private version of XAI, Elon Musk's, opens up. It's the same program. It's like Palantir opened up pretty much the moment total information awareness shut down. TIA, remember back in the day, the all-seeing eye, we're going to spy on everyone? Yeah. That was so much public outlash against that they shut it down, and Peter Thiel comes and was like, hey, I'll do that for you. Sure. So he gets a government contract, and away we go. So anyway, so this is the thing. Explainable AI is not the same as XAI. Explainable AI is AI that can explain to you why it's doing what it's doing. That may sound nuanced, but a typical computer program just does what it's programmed to do. And if you asked it why, it would just say, I'm doing what I'm programmed to do. That's as far as it could go. But explainable AI can actually give you, in a coherent way, its decision-making process. It can go through and explain to you why it chose to research specific data points, how it analyzed them, and how it used that analysis to come to its conclusions. That's scary. Human beings can't even do that most of the time. So when you factor in the idea that the consumer level AI is going off of information that it finds on the internet, and we're all stupid on some level, and we are using AI, ChatGPT and other things, to create content that goes on the internet, knowing that a good portion of that time the information that ChatGPT and others give to us is wrong, because it's a language learning model. It's not meant to be an oracle of truth. So we're just feeding back wrong information into it, which gives it more data to look at. So the next time somebody asks it a question, it has your wrong information to look at. And so we're getting this cycle, it's already happening, where AI is dumbing down to us and we're dumbing down to it. And the overall intelligence level as expressed by the accurate data that's being put online is going down and down and down and down. This is where I think AI fits in prophecy. It's twofold. One is just what I said. It's making us dumber. Instead of doing actual research and learning how to actually use, first person, second person, all that kind of stuff, primary sources, secondary sources, instead of learning how to do that, instead of learning how to research through archives, etc., looking at documents, no, people aren't doing that anymore. They're just asking, hey, ChatGPT, tell me blah, 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 blah. And it says, okay, and it gives you an answer. And you just run with it because you didn't do your research. So you have no clue if what it's telling you is accurate or not because you did not do actual research. So it's dumbing us down. Now, knowing that these programs are created and run by government contractors, ChatGPT, OpenAI, that's Sam Altman. The Sam Altman that was put in charge of Stargate. When Trump 2.0 came into office, one of the first things he did was do a $500 billion program called Stargate to use artificial intelligence to design MMR vaccines. Excuse me, not MMR, mRNA vaccines. So for all you people that think that now that RFK is on board, we're not going to do no. The first thing he did practically was go right back where he picked up with Operation Warp Speed, which, by the way, Biden carried it on. He just changed the name. Same idea. And he said, now instead of having humans directly design these, we're going to just turn it over to AI and let them do it. And so these same companies, OpenAI, XAI, they all overlap. They're all in the same bed. And they're the ones rolling out all of this consumer-based AI. They're also the ones rolling out the government-use AI. And so it's all the same pool. It's all connected. So why would governments want to participate in a program that is shown, and ahead of time this was going to happen. People have talked about this in the industry, that they knew it was going to dumb people down. Well, if you're the ruling class, of course you want the people dumbed down. Because the more intelligent they are, and the more resourceful they are, and the more onto you they are, the more of a threat they are. Dumb everybody down. That's the obvious low-hanging fruit. The fruit that's a little higher up on the tree is the control grid. And this is why it drives me crazy that Republicans cannot see this for whatever reason. I think this is why Trump is the guy, because they knew, that Trump would be able to manipulate Republicans to accept the agenda. Democrats, by and large, just roll over to government control. Give us more. That's what they do. They're not the problem. It's Republicans, it's libertarians, it's constitutionalists, it's conservatives that should know better. And Trump has got them all accepting it. I shouldn't say all, there's always exceptions, I'm generalizing. Trump has got Republicans, by and large, accepting the World Economic Forum Great Reset agenda. And they think they're fighting for freedom. They think it's Merca. Like it's absolutely ridiculous. It just troubles my soul that good people have fallen for this masquerade. Or is it a masquerade? So anyway, so the control grid aspect. I talked about this when I did the Mark of the Beast video. There are people out there, and this is why I'm bringing this up in the context of ruling out, who the beast is. The beast is not AI. There's a growing fear, and people have articulated this very specifically online, that AI is going to go sentient. It's going to, in other words, become self-aware, become conscious like a human, and it's going to start acting in its own best interests. We see this in tons of movies. Terminator, Matrix, Avengers, Age of Ultron. I mean, I could keep going on and on and on. It's a common theme. The machines take over and decide humanity needs to be destroyed. Okay? And so, or enslaved, or, some dystopian variation of that. And when you look for that scenario in Bible prophecy, you can't find it. It's basically two things. It's human beings destroying each other via war and tangential things to war, and it's Yahweh doing things supernaturally. Okay, there's nothing in there about humans creating a machine, and and people are like, well, but the spirits of the watchers will inhabit. No, that's nonsense. I'm just going to say it outright. That's nonsense. The beast, the Antichrist, will not be a machine. That makes no sense in the context of the entire Bible and the corpus of prophecy. That makes no sense. I'm sorry if you believe that. I'm here to provide an alternative view that I believe is more accurate. Okay? So AI is not the beast. However, I talked about this in the Mark of the Beast video. When it comes down to the Mark of the Beast, those who don't take it, and the Mark of the Beast is basically the counterpart to the seal of Yahweh, Deuteronomy 6. Okay? This is the idea that this is you are serving one kingdom or the other. You are serving Yahweh's kingdom, or you're serving the beast kingdom, the world. Okay? You can't have two masters. So if you are not serving the beast kingdom, by default, that means you're serving Yahweh's kingdom. And so the Mark of the Beast says, anyone serving Yahweh's kingdom, let's frame it that way, right? Because those people don't have the Mark of the Beast. Anyone serving Yahweh's kingdom his way, you can't buy or sell. And eventually we'll round you up and behead you. That's later in the book. But for the time being, you can't buy or sell. So with billions of people in the world, this is where AI comes in. AI, I believe, with all my being right now, subject to change based on evidence, but right now, AI is the tool that was created by the powers that should not be, and whether they intended it or not, it's the perfect thing to be that control. AI will allow the powers that should not be to identify who serves Yahweh and who does not. It already scours our social media. It can predict, like my phone, my iPhone 7, my lowly iPhone Dinosaur 7 will pop up sometimes when I'm in a certain area at a certain time. It'll give me an ETA until I get home. Well, who said I was going home? It has learned my patterns. It has learned that statistically, when I'm in that spot at that time on that day, I'm probably going home. So it tries to help me. Okay? I didn't ask it to do that. It did it on its own. So the idea is that this panopticon that AI will allow to happen will allow the governments, call it the beast, whatever you want, to actually process and understand everybody where they're at as far as their relationship to the government, their faith, their health, everything. And then AI will use that information to tell the government, here's your people. Here's your people that should not be buying or selling. And of course, the idea is to get us all over on some kind of a digital currency. All you Bitcoin bros are going to be for a rude awakening. Like, they're talking about using Bitcoin as a reserve. So, in other words, we don't have gold as the backer for our reserves anymore. The petrodollar's dead. We need some kind of something with value to undergird our currency. They want to attach it to Bitcoin. So there you go. You're part of the system, and you thought you were rebelling against the system. And then we get into the idea, I need to plug my phone in here. Then we get into the idea that, you know, if you're on a central, like, digital currency, it doesn't have to be a central bank digital currency. It can be a stable coin, which is a type of crypto. It can be any controlled, digitally controlled currency. The AI says, okay, here's your targets, and it shuts you off. Since you don't have hard currency anymore, you probably can't barter because, you know, they've accounted for that. So what are we left here? The AI helps the beast target and punish the people who don't have its mark because they have the seal of Yahweh. So AI is a tool that the beast will 100% use. 100%, I believe that. This is its purpose, to dumb down the people and then bring in the control grid that the beast uses to enforce its will on the masses. This is the thing. This is where it fits in prophecy, in my humble opinion. It's not the beast. It's not the Antichrist, but it is a tool that is very much handy for the beast. And it's a tool that I believe that they're already training us. Like I said in Hollywood, it's just like with demons, right? Every movie in Hollywood with demons has some crazy, freaky, you know, body gore, you know, and people spitting up nails and all, you know, all this kind of, it's just freaky. It's to the point now to where, like, if a person presented like a normal demonic person, like what we read in the scriptures, nobody would recognize it as demons because it's not as crazy as in the movies. They're conditioning us. And even how the words are used, by conditioning concepts like evil in the framework of like horror movies, Michael Myers, you know, all this kind of stuff, it has gotten us into a spot to where we can't see evil in ourselves. Well, I'm not Satan. I'm not Ted Bundy. I'm not a baby killer. I'm not, you know, I'm not this, I'm not this. Therefore, I'm not evil. We're all evil in some way. Biblically, evil just means less good. It doesn't mean necessarily like horrendously wicked. All right? But it allows us to box ourselves out of that and get ourselves off the hook so that we can just go right on doing what we do and not have any personal accountability, at least in our own minds. So the same way with AI, they've conditioned us to expect an AI overlord that will actually rise up and on its own control all the humans, including the powers that should not be. Because in the Matrix, as far as we know, none of the rulers of the world made it past what happened. Okay? As far as we know. Same thing with Terminator. I mean, I could keep going and going and going. The whole idea is they flip and they end up dominating us in either eradicating us altogether or using us as some kind of slave. All right? That's what Hollywood wants you to think AI is. So that when you don't see that, you don't realize the trap that you just walked into. They do it all the time. So this is AI in prophecy. It is the control mechanism. It's the control grid that the beast will use to enforce its will on humanity. But it is not the beast, and it's not the Antichrist. So I wanted to put that out there for food for thought. You know, and like I said, there's tons of variation on what prophecy means. And this is one of the reasons why I haven't done the Who is the Beast yet, is because I've been wrestling with it. My core desire is to make it as bulletproof as possible. I want to lay out the case and say, this is who the beast is, period, full stop. But I'm realizing that as much as my desire is to do that, that's not how prophecy works. Like if you think about when Messiah came in his first advent, there weren't people hundreds of years prior going and looking at Zephaniah and doing all this kind of stuff. I mean, maybe they were speculating, but you didn't have this whole industry around interpreting prophecy and trying to set dates and predicting. No. But when he came after the fact, people were like, oh, okay, so that's what Zechariah meant when he talked about him riding in on the colt of a donkey. Okay. Then it clicks. And I believe it's going to be like that in the eschaton. Most people are not going to understand prophecy until after it happens. Then they have the framework, the experiential framework, to go back and say, oh, that's what that meant. And they can see it as a fulfillment of a prophecy. I think that's how it's going to mostly work. So I'm resigning myself to, when I eventually get to that teaching, keeping it more simplified and just providing a framework for generally understanding who the beast is without pinning down a ton of detail. Okay, because I don't want to defeat the purpose of prophecy. And I don't want to fall into this trap of hyper predicting, like people get into. I don't want to do that. So anyway, that's a long-winded way of saying AI is not the beast. So you can rule it out as the beast, but it's seriously important. And so while I'm kind of stepping back a little bit from posting political type stuff, even though I do still see it's relevant, I'm probably going to still keep putting out updates on this kind of stuff out there because it is important. And whether it's prophecy related or not, the stuff that's coming impacts our lives directly. And so it's important to know. Okay? I'm not coming at this from the perspective of, oh, I have to expose all of their lies. I have to expose all the evil. We already know how evil this world is and how corrupt the governments are. They don't need me to go expose them. Their own actions do it. Okay? But where their intentions intersect with our day-to-day lives, that is more pressing. Yes, that is more important. And showing love to my neighbor is kind of revealing things that, hey, here's a trap that you could literally fall in. It's not hypothetical. It's not something I saw on TikTok. This is a real thing, and this AI thing is a real thing, and it's already entrapping millions. I see posts from people, and I just scratch my head. People on Facebook, obviously, because I'm not on Instagram or any other place like that, but like people on Facebook. Like one day they'll be talking about how bad AI is, it's the beast, it's this, and then the next day they'll be posting pictures that they made of themselves with AI. It's like, you just gave it information about yourself. You just gave it photographs of yourself. It already has that if you posted them on Facebook. But you're intentionally giving it information. And then you're saying it's evil and we shouldn't trust it. And John Connors would be like eye rolling, like, you can't see the disconnect here? Or you'll ask ChatGPT something and then you'll post the answer and you don't see the disconnect here, And that's why that John Connors meme is so brilliant. It's like, John Connors is like giving you the side eye, like, really, you're making friends with AI? Like, what? Don't you know how this, like, yeah. And so people that seem to indicate that they know how bad this is and they know what it's capable of are playing with it like it's a toy anyway. Like it's this fun thing. I mean, to the point to where the president, the leader of the world, Donald J. Trump, thought it was a cute idea to make an AI picture of himself as the Pope. Like, this is where we're at. It's funny, it's cute, we can use it for trolling and making memes and doing all this stuff. There are AI videos going around. They're hilarious. There's one of the scene of Vizzini and the Dread Pirate Roberts, the Man in Black from The Princess Bride, and it's done as babies. It's hilarious, but it's AI generated. It's entertaining. So people are going to keep making more, and they're going to keep consuming more. And the more they do this, the more information they're putting into the AI control grid about our behavior patterns, what triggers those dopamine kicks, so that they can do more of that to dumb us down even more. We got to do better, guys. We got to do better. We don't need to voluntarily give the beast our life information so that it can turn that around later and target us. That's just beyond dumb. And yet here we are, a lot of folks doing it that should know better. Anyway, I'm going to sign off for good night, for now. And I hope this was educational. I hope it was something that is useful. I know it sounds kind of basic. Maybe it's a letdown. Like, oh, well, we thought James was going to give us this detailed thing about AI and this scripture and that scripture. Like, it's just remarkably simple. So if you're let down by the simplicity of this, I'm sorry. Not sorry. Sorry, not sorry. But anyway, it is what it is. Love you guys. Good night. Yahweh bless.